we are back again.
Hi guys.
Hi, how you all doing? How you doing? This is actually episode 2.
Yes.
Yeah, officially episode 2. To some, it's episode 3. We're officially back. Thanks. Shout out to all our listeners. I've had a bit of feedback. It's been really interesting. Did you see that meme, the Dave Chappelle one, where it's like he's scratching for crack? That my friend posted up. I was cracking up, literally, no pun. And you know what? Like I was saying to you on our way here, I bumped into a few guys when I went last week. I went to a concert in Brixton.
Who did you see?
Dave East.
Oh,
New York rapper.
Yeah, I know.
Dave East.
Come on now.
Yeah. So like, oh yeah, listen to your podcast. And the next one coming out, I was like, bruv. But you didn't tell me you listen. Like, at least repost my thing. Give me a little like, a little.
People, give us a like, give us a repost.
Yeah, but do you know what? We can touch on that towards the end of this episode, which is the numbers game.
Okay.
And my thing is, you can't play the numbers game in this, especially as a creative.
But you can't help but wanna,
I tell you now,
have a look, see.
You do,
what the numbers
you do,
are saying.
you do. But I don't think it's these metrics. We need to understand them, and there are ways to manipulate them. And I'd rather, maybe I'm old school, but I do appreciate a real person saying to me, I listen to your podcast. When is your podcast coming out again? Versus numbers and likes. So of course we want the likes and we want the, because God willing, in the future we're doing this on a DSP, a Spotify, Tidal, whatever. When we can get a bit of license to play a little bit of music, a bit of, we don't want our stuff taken down from SoundCloud before we start popping. You know what I mean? That's why we've got no music, no, it's just all original content. Yeah. But yeah, how are you doing?
I'm good. How's your week been?
Busy. No, do you know what? It's a weird busy. It's like on Monday, I don't know if this happened at work for you, but you start getting those fuck off emails where it's like, it's almost like a handover email, because towards the end of the week, people are going to start answering their phone calls.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like, it's like, I deal with lawyers, so it's like, as per our last conversation, just to let you know, it's all listed out, and I'm like, I can tell you're not going to answer my calls towards the end of the week, because a lot of people, to be honest with me, I was actually supposed to be off from this week. Because I've hardly taken holiday, because this has been a busy year for me. But certain things in terms of targets is going down to the wire. So unfortunately, I have to be until the 23rd of December.
Ooh, that's on a Monday?
Yeah, I know. But on the flip side, I will come back like the second week of January. So I won't be coming into work that first week, that rush. So,
I mean, to be honest, mentally, I've checked out.
Well, low-key I have as well, because low-key you're just there,
just showing up.
Literally, you get 10 emails and you literally just look for, is there one that comes from so-and-so person?
Solely to me.
Yeah, the rest, those CCs. What? Why CC?
I'm Netflix and chilling. I'm joking.
Right, a little bit of YouTube, Yeah. So, what topics have we got today? We've got some interesting ones.
Yes, our concerns for the week. Well, obviously, we've got the election tomorrow. Obviously, by the time this airs, we will know who our new Prime Minister is.
I can't even remember how it's counted. Is it on the night? It's on the night, isn't it?
The 11th Wednesday.
So So we'll know.
We'll know by the time this airs. So, I mean, do you want to tell everyone who you're voting for? Can you tell everyone who you're voting for?
I'd rather break it down versus just saying it out the gate.
Okay.
Because, to be honest with you, maybe by the end of this podcast, I'll know who I'm voting for.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So, do you want to start? Because mine's a bit complex. I need to break it down. Or do you?
I mean, I don't really have too much of an opinion. I mean, we've had 4 elections in the past 10 years in the UK. It's just getting ridiculous now. And apparently, the way the polls are going, it's going to be a hung parliament. Meaning, yeah. So we might, in another 6 months, we might be doing this shit again.
Yeah.
So it's a case where obviously go out and vote, make a difference, because every vote does count.
I'm gonna say it like this. I'm gonna touch on UK politics and US politics, lightly on US politics. Historically, we, the so-called ethnic minority, have voted for Labour.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe in certain areas, maybe Lib Dem in this country.
Yeah.
Maybe in certain areas, I agree. Because we think they're more amenable to us. So not just the ethnic, as in black people. I mean Indian, Asian. Whatever, gay,
and mostly
lesbian,
working class.
Whatever, working class. Yeah. We have historically voted for the Labour Party.
Yeah.
But over time, what the Labour Party represents or what the Conservative Party represents has evolved with time, even though fundamentally they are who they are. And it's similar in America. I don't think America's a bit more rigid because it's literally Democrats or Republicans.
I feel like it's the same here. I feel like it's the same here. I mean, but you get Dems are just there for show. Let's be honest.
That is true.
They will never.
Yeah, fair enough.
Win an election.
Fair enough. But hear this. This is what you got to remember. Our system is a parliamentary system, which is slightly different, which led to, was it a hung parliament? I'm not going to quote the year, but it was a couple of elections ago. The one where Nick Clegg formed a coalition government. The coalition, When has the US ever had that? So that's what I mean. There's a bit more fluidity.
The way their constitution is,
it's outright. There's an outright winner.
It's either Republican
and then you take turns on who controls the Senate and the
the House.
The House of Rep. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, just lightly touching on that. By the way, we are not experts on this. This is, in actual fact, I'm happy to share this because I hope this helps anybody else understand the importance of voting, but also informing yourself and learning. Because me personally, I've never really cared because I just.
Do you vote though?
I've voted 1 or 2 times, but I've never really cared about it enough. I've just gone Labour and then just gone about my life. But as you get older and you see,
how things start to affect you.
Yeah, you see how it affects you, whether it's if you're trying to buy a home, childcare costs,
taxes,
mortgage, taxes, foreign policy, immigration. Like it starts affecting you more because as you get older, when you're younger, you don't realize how selfish you are.
Yeah.
Which is just natural, but when you get older, you start thinking about your parents, your uncle, your cousin from so and so. Even at work for me, I start thinking about the cleaner that works, that cleans the lobby. Like how this affects our rights. So you broaden your perspective.
You start thinking outwardly, yeah.
Exactly, definitely. and that's probably what's led to my answer. So I'm just going to break down before I tell you. I still don't know who I'm voting for, but hopefully you might be able to help me. You might be able to sway me. Okay. So just for context, I've done a few quizzes. I've done one on Telegraph, Telegraph newspaper.
Online?
I did a quiz.
So what does this quiz determine? Like who you're more leaning towards?
Yeah, who you're more leaning towards. So what they do is they give you policies. I wouldn't say scenarios and policies. I wouldn't necessarily say they're verbatim, but the recent one I did today, which I spent an hour on, was probably the best one because it really made you think. It wasn't like, do you want private healthcare or do you want healthcare to be publicly funded? It wasn't like that. It was very like, well, do you want 300,000 nurses coming in from South Africa? It was very specific. Do you want a bursary for student nurses? Should nurses have to get a degree to work in a hospital? It was very, you had to really think. And once you get through the first question, you go through about 3-4 different questions, right? And then it categorizes your answers, but it kind of mixes them up. And the interesting thing, it never says which party is related to the policy. So you don't have a bias naturally.
But you kind of will have an idea.
Not necessarily. Some are very similar. Some are very... You'd be surprised how similar different parties' policies are. But anyway...
people vote for the leader rather than the party
itself. And this is where I'm talking about maturity comes into play because, let's go back in the day. I mean, the first election, I think was shortly after Tony Blair. But we always knew that Tony Blair was popular in the Labour Party. To be honest, when I look at the Labour Party, they haven't had anyone Jeremy Corbyn divides opinion, but he's the most popular since Tony Blair.
Definitely.
So those were the last people you could think of. Okay, you got Boris Johnson in there now. He's a bit of a clown. Anyway, according to my results from... In actual fact, sorry, before I give this, let me preface by saying the last couple of quizzes I did, twice I came out as a Lib Dem voter. And twice I came out as Labour. And then in a table, it was kind of in this order. It was like Labour, Lib Dem, not far off. They're literally like 20% off each other. Green Party, then it was like Conservative, then UKIP. Okay,
so that is amazing.
Yeah. So I averaged out as a Labour Lib Dem voter. Okay, but in my opinion, this is the most in-depth quiz like which I did. Yeah, to the way it made me think, and on this one, I came out 6.7% Green Party. Okay. 20%.
You look so pleased with yourself.
No, I'm just waiting for you to hear this. 20% Lib Dem. Okay. 20% Labour. Mm-hmm. Drum roll. 20% Brexit. And 33.3% Conservative.
Really?
Yeah. I must say I was upset.
Why were you upset though?
Because
there's nothing wrong this is why I'm explaining Tory if they policies align with your way of life. This is where it gets interesting
because if you don't take this quiz in your head, if you said to someone you're voting Tory, the first one is like, oh, so you don't want Europeans to remain, or you don't care about people, or you don't care about the NHS. Like I follow Jeremy Corbyn on Instagram, and there's a lot of scaremongering he does, which I don't really appreciate. I hate when the politicians
they all do it.
I know, but some of it's crazy. Sorry, like there was this one kid, like I don't know, sleeping on a hospital floor.
But that was actually true.
I know, but does Boris Johnson the person, really not cares? Like, come on.
I mean, we don't know that.
I know, but it was just a bit like. A bit of pandering, in my opinion.
It's a general election. Are you kidding me? They have to literally do what they
can. Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. I don't buy into those. I don't buy into that image. I buy into policy. I buy into results. Maybe that's me being hardline, but when it comes to voting,
you say,
and I'm saying it's not appreciating my voting power. By the way,
I don't disagree that that's how you vote.
Yeah,
and whatnot. But not everybody thinks like that.
Yeah,
for a lot of people, this election is literally all they're looking at.
Yeah,
in terms of who they're going to vote for, they're not looking at what so and so have done in the past or what they're going to do in the future. They're just looking at this small frame timeline of this election.
Yeah.
What are the leaders telling me? What are they telling me? What I want to hear? Do you know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah, but let me ask you this before I break down and tell you who I will be voting for.
Oh, you've decided already?
No, not yet. This election, let's be honest, is it a general election? And it's a general election, yes, but are we thinking about how the party will shape the country for the next, is it 4 or 5 years?
4 years. 5 years. 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. Or are we thinking about voting to remain or leave? Because if it boils down to remain or leave, I'm just going to say how it is. Okay. If it boils down to remain or leave, if it's based on that, then I need to vote Lib Dem or Labour because I want to remain. I'm a Remainer. You see what I mean?
I see what you mean.
If it's down to policy,
but this is where
if it's down to policy, then I need to vote Conservative. This is where the
parties have really messed up because
they've made it
a dogfight for Brexit,
and we're distracted away from everything else. Yeah. So just to give you context in terms of how this survey came to the conclusion that I'm a Conservative voter. So let's see. On Brexit, I'm a Labour person, according to results, which makes sense, which means I want to remain. Okay. On democracy, I'm a Brexit Party person. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Okay. If you're not educated on this, you will not understand what Brexit Party's policy on democracy is to kind of rehold the whole House of Lords. I believe you should be voted in.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't believe in this inheritance as well, and staying there for 40, 50 years. So Brexit, if you look at it on the face of it, you think, oh no, it's just telling people to get out of the country and all the negative. But there are other things in there which is kind of revamping the way Parliament, the government is
conducts
run
itself.
Through the country. Then education, I'm Lib Dem.
Okay.
I'm not surprised there. Equalities and rights, I'm Conservative. Now, this is interesting because this will segue into one of our topics later on. But maybe I'll touch on it there. But there was just a few things in there about forcing people to get with set. I'm not going to say how it is. There was a question in there, but to be fair, there was a good couple of questions. There was this question. It was something crazy. In actual fact, I did take a picture of it. Let's see if I can read it. The question was, end the opt-out of LGBTIQA plus inclusive PHSE classes at school and update the Gender Recognition Act for legal recognition through self-declaration.
So you wanted to opt?
That was a mouthful.
It was a mouthful. So just gist of it is that I know they're trying to introduce,
force people to learn this in school.
Learn about LGBT.
Yeah. So
what exactly are they learning?
Exactly. I just saw it and I was just like, no. In school, I was like, you got to relax. It wasn't college.
So you would opt your child out of like?
Yeah, if I have a choice.
Yeah. You would rather. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get too deep into this, but my mum's a teacher.
Okay.
And my mum said to me, my mum is a devout Catholic, Christian, okay? And she said to me, if she is forced to teach that in school,
she would quit?
She would resign.
Are you joking?
No, she said it. I laughed because of the way she said it. Obviously, I cannot repeat the words she said, but the way she said it, I was like, but Mum, I feel you, because my mum, was in her 50s, and that's not what she doesn't believe in that. But we'll touch on it in the next.
Okay, let's not explain it because that's in the next. That later on.
That's in the next topic. Definitely. So. But there was a few other sliders in there which might have how can I put it? Might have made me a conservative, but I don't necessarily think I am a conservative on equality and rights. It sounds like you're conservative
about certain things, and you're liberal
which touch on religion. Yeah. And maybe that's why it said I'm conservative. I'm just trying to explain. I'm giving you an example.
Yeah, of course.
You can read into this, but don't read too much in it. You still have your own opinion, your own mind. After all, this is algorithm. Someone has made this up. But I think it's pretty accurate based on what I answered. Okay. Then the next thing is, this one really surprised me, I'll be honest with you, is health and NHS.
Okay.
I came out as...
What, conservative?
Yeah.
So you think people should pay for their own
health? I don't. Okay. I don't. But again, this is another one I can elaborate on.
Okay.
The question, I don't remember every question, but there was a lot of questions about nationalising certain elements of...
nationalising or privatising?
No, nationalising certain elements. Okay, we got the NHS, but people forget that there's a lot of areas that are quite private. I've met a few people who work in the pharmacy market. Let's say, for example, like paracetamol or a drug for liver cancer.
Okay.
An American company, a Chinese company, a Russian company do have the option to bid. Okay. And then the NHS accepts whichever one. I'm simplifying how it goes.
Yeah.
I still want that competition. I don't want that to be nationalised and we're forced to go with this one. Because I do believe that competition breeds good quality.
Absolutely.
And so those were the answers. But things like, getting as many nurses as we can, doctors, all that kind of stuff, I was very positive about it. So that's why I mean, like, it's very tricky when they break it down. It's not that simple as the politicians try to make it sound for us. Or
because all we're hearing is they're going to privatise, they're going to sell it off to the US, and you are absolutely right in the sense that they are scaremongering people.
Yeah,
because I don't really think that
if you don't go into the detail, you'll think that literally that's what's going to happen.
What's going to happen, and it's not.
Immigration. I don't even want to repeat this, man.
Tread light.
I'm not even going to touch on
No. You can't renege. Please read what was said and what was that. What were the results?
No. It said I'm Brexit Party. I don't understand.
So you think there should be a cap on immigration? What was the question that was asked?
There was. It's not one question. That's the thing. It's like 4 or 5 questions.
Can you remember one?
What I remember, I agreed on. It was something about the detention centres. I agreed that I disagreed with them and said that it should be a more welcoming space.
Okay.
We should help. I don't want to say we because I don't feel like I'm we.
Why?
I don't know. Even though I was born here, I still feel like I'm an immigrant.
Really?
That's a whole other topic for another podcast.
Country. This is my country.
That's
Carry on.
That's on my passport. And then there was something about so detention centre, helping refugees. I'm trying to remember what the third one was. But like I said, this is another thing where the sliders are crazy. It's like, it's very extreme. It's like, Do you think? Oh, it's honestly, it's stupid shit. Like, do you think everyone that comes into the country should immediately have free NHS, be able to claim benefits? And then if you say no, then all of a sudden you're conservative. No, I'm not conservative. It just means I don't agree with that. Yeah. I agree that if you came into the country, you've been persecuted in your country, or you come in, let's say you're a carpenter in your country, and you come in with those skills, and you come in and you want to be some kind of trade in this country. Yes, come in. But I don't agree with the guy who comes in and freeloads. I never agree with that, because there are freeloaders in the country, but I'm not saying that's the majority.
Of course.
But the way these sliders work, it can just be like, oh, you don't want anyone to get free stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next thing was crime. This one's funny. I came out as Green Party.
Okay, so how does that work?
I think it makes them very liberal. But again, you know why this is stupid? I bet you it's because I said legalize weed. Then they're like, oh, you're a Green Party. But that's probably just one thing. And then it was like, do you know what it is? I was talking to somebody about this, and they said to me, you live in Greater London, so you take for granted how much crime there is.
Where you live is considered Greater London?
Where we're East Finchley is not London. We're in Greater London.
Is that Greater London? To me, it's like Zone 6.
Okay, I'm in London then. I'm in Zone 3. Yeah. All right. Well, Greater London. The point I'm trying to make is people that don't live in London or Greater London, people that live in like a Newcastle or Birmingham. Let me not use Birmingham.
No, that's not you.
But let's use like a Lincolnshire or something like that. They look at London like, oh my God, there's so much crime. They need 40,000 police officers in the street, and I'm like,
there's 9 million people in this city.
Do you know what I mean? I'm just like, it's not that deep.
It's not that
kind of thing. I'm not, but maybe that's my disposition. I'm not really intimidated. I just understand that there's crime kind of thing. So the point is, I'm a bit lenient. I'm not one of the guys that believes that we need like 60,000 police officers. Maybe it's selfish because something hasn't happened directly to myself, my family, God forbid.
Yeah.
So these are things that are interesting when you expand on. But then the questions it asks you, and probably why it has me as Green Party, I'm not sure which other party, but there was mandates there like all police officers should get like a 5% increase on their salary, pension, this, that. You know, there's so many things pro-police, and I'm sorry, I'm not really pro-police. I respect what they do, but I'm not.
You're not pro-police.
Like there was, like for example, with education where I'm a Lib Dem, I was very pro-teachers. Yes, teachers' basic salary should start from 30 grand. Yes, teachers should get a 3% increase annually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you learn more about yourself, what you lean towards. I appreciate teachers. I think teaching lecturers are probably the most underappreciated.
Yeah, educators in general.
You know, professionals out there.
Definitely.
Then economy, I came up as Lib Dems. I don't really have much to say on that, to be honest with you, because, I really don't have much to say. Okay. I wouldn't think I'm a conservative, and then at the same time, I wouldn't think I'm Labour. I think I'm in between. So I think that's about right.
That's about right.
Environment, I came up as Conservatives.
Really?
I'll tell you why. That one's very easy.
Why?
I'm a petrol head. So I didn't agree with... There was a lot of abolish petrol and diesel cars by 2030. I was like, that's only 10 years away.
Yeah.
I got to drive a couple of Ferraris before then. Do you know what I mean? Like, what are you trying to say?
They're really trying to get everyone on this electric car.
They're trying to force it. And
do you pay an emissions charge on your car?
I pay... I pay a little bit, but it's not that high.
Okay.
I'm lucky. I was like 1 year away from paying like extortionate for parking or being in the
emissions zone. But you know they're going to extend it to the whole of London.
Yeah, I've seen that. But I've checked my car's exempt.
Oh, okay, cool.
But you know, it was only a few years ago they're telling everyone to get on diesel.
Yeah, I know,
right? Crazy. Then environment. No, sorry, we just touched on environment.
Yeah.
Foreign policy and defence. This one's interesting. I came out as Labour. I don't mind that. Labour.
Okay.
And I think I know why I came out as Labour. Again, this is another one where it was like really extreme, kind of in between like peace to the world and kind of like surrender everything. And I think if I said surrender everything, I'd be Lib Dem, Green Party, which is like surrender all your nukes, like literally don't have any kind of military defense on your islands. And I'm sorry, maybe I like too many action films or something. I'm like, nah. We've got to have our nukes on deck, you know. Just in case some North Korean guy decides he wants to end all of us. You know what I mean?
If he ends all of us, he's ending himself. I don't understand the whole...
So we all die?
I mean...
I don't know.
It just makes no sense to me.
But that one, it was a very tricky one. But do you know what? These ones where you're kind of in between are the ones where you don't really have that much knowledge. I am not an expert on foreign policy and defence.
Okay.
And maybe why I'm Labour is because I agree with foreign aid. It was very tricky. It was like questions like, do you believe we should give 0.2% of our GDP in foreign aid, or do you think we should give 1%? Yeah, that kind of thing. Housing came up as Conservatives. No, that one's easy. I can tell you why, because they encourage you to buy a home. There's a lot of things in the policy you wouldn't know, but there's a lot of things in there which encourage and
like ownership.
Yeah, ownership and put you on your game. Okay. Whereas the other parties are more leaning towards shared ownership and let's build 10 million council homes. And it's like, that's cool, but what about the guy who worked hard and wants to buy a dream home? Yeah. So a bit of a balance. And then the last one was jobs and work. Came up as Conservatives. So it's quite a long story short. Actually, sorry, I missed two. I'll quickly go through these ones. Tax, I came out as Brexit Party. That doesn't make sense. But it does kind of. I want lenient tax.
On those earning a substantial amount.
Yeah,
okay.
because I believe I'll earn a substantial amount very soon. So I want to be there. Don't come with your 50, 60%. Or what is it that Jeremy wants? 70%?
I think he wants 60% for every...
20%, I'm cool.
What?
I know that's dreaming. But, I genuinely believe in myself that I'll be up there at a certain point.
Absolutely.
So selfish, you know what I mean?
Wow.
Transport, I came up as Labour. Who cares? Yeah. Wealth and pensions, I came up as Lib Dems. Okay. So this was, you see the way I broke it down, so many categories, and then you start to realise, you don't realise how many, because you're just looking at, like you said, you're looking at the hot takes, the NHS is this and that, or the...
You can't blame people for doing that.
Yeah,
no one, from... Obviously, because of the whole Brexit, that's where everyone's been more in tune with politics nowadays. But prior to that, we were literally just living our lives.
Yeah, but I think this is interesting. I think it's just personal, evolution and growth. Do you know what I mean? Because I'd like to think the next election, I'll do an even more in-depth, research. I reckon where I'll be in my life in 4 or 5 years' time, I'll be more in a position to be very informed and from the gate without... I probably won't even have to do one of these.
Yeah.
I'll probably just be like, no, I know what I'm paying in tax. I know...
Yeah, exactly.
The school my son goes to, healthcare, I'll have a more varied... Exactly. Absolutely. And then I'll be able to, from the gate, just say, this is who I'm voting for. Yeah. But it was quite an interesting experience. So, to be honest with you, I say all of that to say I still don't know who I'm voting for. Tomorrow morning.
Moral of the story is do your research.
Do your research.
Don't just vote blindly.
Exactly. What I'll probably do tomorrow morning, because the polling station's not far from where I live at night. I'd rather do it before going to work.
Yeah. Get it over done.
Just know you've done it. Mm-hmm. Before then, I'll just make up my mind. But it's going to be. I think it's really going to be.
I think it's going to be conservative. But
I think it's going to be conservative or Lib Dem.
Lib Dem.
Yeah.
Have you been watching the polls? Lib Dem are 2%. It's not going to happen.
But then you see, so you're following the trends.
I'm not following the trend. I'm following the polls.
I'm just throwing my vote to say I voted.
Well, some people are.
I know it sounds ignorant, but I'm one of those guys that believe it's already been decided.
You think?
Yeah.
Well,
that's a whole conspiracy. We can do a conspiracy theory podcast. You know what I mean? But anyway, I think I've talked too much on this, but you can see I did my research and I was really in tune. To be fair, it really affects my business, what I do for a living.
Yeah.
Working in real estate. Yeah. This will affect our market. That's
Same
why,
here,
to be honest, that is why I'm working up till the 23rd, because that's the difference between someone paying stamp duty last week and paying next week. Some people are literally... These are multi-millionaires, some billionaires, and they care. It just shows you. It doesn't matter what kind of money you have, you still care about these things.
Of course.
Some people are paying up to 20, 30, depending on how much.
Stamp duty?
Listen, it's a different
ball game, clearly.
Yeah. Over to you. I think I've spoken too much.
I guess we can segue, because we were going to talk about...
You ain't tell me who you voting for.
No, I'm not telling you.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to segue to our topic, our sensitive topic, which you know what? It kind of relates back to our pilot episode.
A little
briefly
bit, yeah.
touch on it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Let me do this. I'll just read some of the key points in the news bulletin I saw. I think we'll do this now and then for certain topics.
Okay, yeah. Just to get
even though I said we will give you
clarity.
guys, even though I said we will give you guys hood facts now and then, certain things.
Now and then we need to be a bit more accurate on. Definitely.
Firstly, I'll just give a quick summary, then I'll read parts of this bulletin and then we can discuss. I came across an article. It wasn't actually an article. It was a video clip from Sky News where the Zambian president was being interviewed.
What's his name? Edgar Lungu? Yeah, that's his name.
Don't butcher his name.
No, that's his name. Okay. Edgar Lungu.
It might be Lungu.
Oh, my bad.
Exactly. You're like, Lungu? Don't butcher his name now. Do you know what I mean? But they interviewed him because two men were caught or accused of a homosexual act.
Okay.
And they were given 15 years imprisonment. Which is very hard.
So homosexuality is same-sex relationships is a crime.
It's illegal. Yeah,
it's illegal in Zambia.
It's against the law in Zambia. Okay. But let me just briefly read this because I think it's really important. I would like us to flesh this out and discuss
it. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
So
what exactly are you reading? The actual...
It's just a few excerpts from the Sky interview.
Okay.
So here it goes. The Zambian president's tough defense of his anti-homosexual views was recorded on Sky News and sparked outrage from the country's US ambassador. So the American diplomat over in Zambia threatened to cut foreign aid to Zambia.
Okay. Because of Zambia's stance on same-sex relationships.
On same-sex relationships. And the Zambians have basically launched a complaint demanding action. They're basically saying we're a sovereign state. How dare you interfere in our affairs? You cannot use that as a bargaining chip to interfere with our laws. Yeah. Okay. Interestingly enough, this is again, there's so many topics that can derive from topics, but here it goes. Basically, this law is an old law which dates back to guess what?
What?
British colonial times.
I was just about to say that.
So this is a law that's been in the legislation
that was brought over by the British.
By the British, okay. And
this
will come into our conversation about how Western nations try to force other countries to kind of get up to speed with what they've got going on.
Okay.
But let's keep going. So the American diplomat, his name is Mr. Foote. He said he was personally horrified at the sentencing. But where it got interesting and a bit controversial is the Zambian president went on the offensive and he basically said this. Most of us think it's wrong, it's unbiblical, it's unchristian, and we don't want it. He even then went on to say this. And no offense to anyone who may be listening to this, but he said, even animals don't do it, so why should we be forced to do it? Because we want to be seen to be smart, to be seen to be civilized and advanced. I watched this basically. I couldn't believe what he said.
This verbatim.
He said this, yeah.
With his chest.
Yeah, his chest. And then he goes on to say,
oh God, there's more.
If there are such countries which will allow, now I want to get this word right. Is it bestiality?
Bestiality. Yeah.
Let them do it, but not here.
But bestiality, isn't that?
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
I don't even want to wrap my head around it. I don't even want to wrap my head around it.
All right.
But obviously that's what he said.
Okay.
So the US ambassador came back. He saw the interview and his retort was, I'm not qualified to sermonize. I cannot imagine Jesus would have used bestiality comparisons or referred to his fellow human beings as dogs or worse than animals. Then goes on to say, targeting and marginalizing minorities, especially homosexuals, has been a warning signal of future atrocities by governments in many countries. And the ambassador, what he was saying, his retort was to the whole thing about your sovereign nation is our country, as in the USA, gives hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to Zambia. So I'm sorry, I have the right to express my views. Fair point. Now, I shouldn't add commentary to what I'm saying because I want us to kind of discuss it amongst ourselves, and I want to see what you have to say before I give you my stance on things. But it was quite interesting, and to be honest, I did a bit of research. This came out, I think, over the weekend. I did a bit of research today just to see if there's been any update. And by no coincidence, there's been a whole bunch of news articles talking about the Zambian president being corrupt and this, that.
Oh, here we go. Of course,
yeah, do you know what I mean? I was like, oh, bruv. Like, right, you know, two things can be right. Let's focus on, but you know what? Yeah. Whatever. I have a lot to say on this, but I'd rather you start off and then I can say my piece.
I feel like, let's be honest, Zambia is probably not the only country in Africa where homosexuality is illegal or same-sex relationships is criminalized.
Africa, in the world. Let's just say in the world. I want to say
no, but in the UK it's not criminalized.
No. I mean, in the world, it's not just Africa. I'm sure there's countries in the Middle East. I know, but it's like
I'm pertaining to Africa because Zambia is in Africa.
Of course.
What a lot of people need to realize is, obviously, when Christianity was brought to Africa, it was a very restrictive, a very conservative form of Christianity.
Right.
And unfortunately, for a lot of Africans, they held on to that.
Agreed.
Dogma, for lack of a better term, and they're just not going to let. And Africans in general are very conservative people.
Yeah.
So there's certain things where they carry everything biblically, or they follow everything biblically. Mm-hmm. So I understand where the guy who works for the embassy.
Mr. Foot.
I understand where he's coming from in terms of, they might want to consider withholding aid to Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really have a right to do that because obviously the Zambian president is correct in saying that it's a sovereign state.
Yes.
You can't intervene in how we choose to conduct policy,
our legislation.
Yeah. But this always reminds me of a conversation I've had with somebody in regards to like homosexuality and the church and people, and because I remember a long time ago, I know I'm just going off tangent a little bit, but when there was the people wanted the right to, homosexuals wanted the right to marry in church.
Oh yes.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's legal now.
Do you know what? I think it's certain churches. I'm not sure of the Catholic Church, but I think like
Anglican Church, because I guess Protestant churches are conducted.
I don't think it's all churches.
Same sex.
I don't think it's like unions. It depends. Yeah.
My thing is, you have to respect the law of the church.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah.
The same way the church has to it's vice versa. You're either going to follow canon law, which is the law of the church, or you're going to follow secular law, which is the law of the land.
Yeah.
You cannot mix the two together. Gotcha. So if the church is saying, we don't want to hold same-sex unions in our establishment, you have to respect that.
Yeah.
The same way you don't want the church interfering in your everyday life.
Yeah.
You shouldn't interfere with the way the church chooses to conduct itself, because it's still a religious institution.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not, whether you choose to follow that institution or not, it's entirely up to you.
Agreed.
So with this Zambia thing, in my opinion, they have Zambia as a country has I don't want to say they have every right to criminalize people.
Yeah.
But I don't think another outsider or a separate entity has the right to interfere with how the way Zambia chooses to. I'm not saying the way Zambia chooses to conduct itself in terms of this policy is correct, but I don't think a separate entity like someone from the United States has a right to interfere, because there are certain policies in the US that people from other countries might not agree with, and vis-a-vis. But I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, what are you? Because when you initially brought up the topic, I was like,
it's a touchy one.
It's not even that it's a touchy one. I have no problems talking about it. It's just a case where.
That's why I'm happy you're here. two guys talking about this would be a bit difficult.
Lord. I don't know. I just feel like, to be honest, I feel like somewhere like Zambia has probably like a million other things they need to be focusing on than trying to criminalize same-sex unions. That's probably the least of their worries.
Oh, their worries. So let me break it down from the sentence.
Okay.
I'm going to say this in a serious way, but also funny way, because I just remember something someone said to me.
God.
I think 15 years is very harsh. Okay, 15 years. Is
that was a sentence that they
15 years
received.
Each. They received 15 years.
And what was there proof that they were engaging in sexual activity, or is this a speculation?
I didn't go into the details whether they've got video or if they've got it in a time capsule.
Stupid.
Message in a bottle. I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is that's what they were convicted of.
Okay.
15 years, I think, is very harsh. Mm-hmm. And there was a fair point the American ambassador made, but then again, I look at it tongue in cheek because I think the poachers are from the US and the UK. But he basically said that poachers get less time. Poachers that come to Zambia and kill
the animals.
Do trophy hunting, they get less time than these guys. I think 15 years is very harsh. But the thing that made me laugh is someone said to me, "You only send them to jail to have more gay sex." So how are you going to send them to jail for 15 years? You send them to the main place where it goes down. Do you know what I mean? So that I found that really funny. I was like, that's a fair point. But I think it's a very harsh sentence. Okay. But in all honesty, if Zambia is known as a Christian state, okay, and they are very strict and very conservative with their Christian, with religion which influences or is tied into law, that should be respected by any foreign nation. Because I know the Americans.
But do they consider themselves a religious state? If they're not like an Arab country.
No, not like an Arab country. But I mean, if it's a big part of, if it plays a big part of the law, that should be respected. Because if you went to,
sorry, it's okay. I just thought of something, but I just feel like sexuality. I don't feel like that should be. That doesn't have anything to do with law or policy. You cannot
no. Park sexuality aside for a second.
But I'm just talking about ultimately talking about.
No, but they were convicted under a law that was brought in by the British.
Yes, based on sexuality. No.
Yes, but just follow me on this.
Okay, I'm following. Go ahead.
The point I'm making is that they have a legal system. Okay. Legal systems throughout history in any country generally is influenced by law, by religion, because before there was law, religion kind of governed and kept people organized and whatever. The point I'm trying to make is that if you go to certain countries that have a certain economic power, okay, like Saudi Arabia, pumping oil, out the gate, at Qatar. Kuwait. You, as a US diplomat, you can't come and do what you're trying to do in Zimbabwe. You can't threaten somebody,
because they don't require aid from the USA.
Well, you'd be surprised. Some of these countries still get aid.
Really?
Yeah, you'd be very surprised.
Okay.
It could be $1 million. Not on the same level. But I do find it a bit tongue in cheek that you use that as your bargaining chip. Well, we're going to take all this money away because just because a particular government is against a certain thing, in this case, the homosexuality, does that mean the poor boy in the village who is waiting for pure drinking water, or the girl trying to go to the school 2 miles away, and you provide aid for like a school bus, things like that, does that mean you take that away? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why I say you cannot. It's not a tit for tat, and it's very sensitive.
But isn't this ambassador just talking? It's not something he can actually put into action.
He's talking, but you never know. You never know if that narrative can become something. I mean, you're forgetting who the president of the US is.
Yeah,
exactly. And he could use that as one of his ploys. It's election year, so he might want to be seen as a bit liberal. Says, this is what I did, and Trump. He talks like he's on. Like he literally talks how he tweets.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But without dancing around the topic, the point I'm making is that two things can be right here. you should respect this country's independence, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that 15 years is very harsh. I was just alarmed by the words he used in the interview. I felt there would have been a more.
Were you expecting him to be more like covert in his?
Not covert. I expected him to show a bit more diplomacy. I expected him to relegate that to the like difference in another country.
That's kitchen talk. He was talking like
yeah. You could have said, you know what, this has been brought to my attention. However, my administration will be looking into. I don't know Zambia, so let's say for argument's sake, that state is called Sokoto State. Okay. My administration will be looking into the Sokoto judicial system to find out why that happened. Yeah, I would have. But he was so forthright, and I just felt like you're on the global stage here. Like,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was my Siri on my phone. You're on the global stage, and there's a way to conduct yourself, and I just found it quite alone. I found it an interesting topic, and just felt my question would be: is the US overstepping their boundaries on this? Do you think they have a point?
I think they have a point.
Okay.
I definitely think they have a point. Like I said earlier, I think this is just talk. I don't think this is something that can be put into action. I don't know how the UN can, like, in terms of. I don't know if the UN can get involved, but I don't know how these things play out. But I don't think it's a case where the US can just overtly just stop aid to Zambia for
just because of this.
Just because of this one occurrence. It's something to think about in terms of how these countries conduct themselves and their policies, and whether they're ready to give up on their beliefs for aid.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know. Like,
it's a tough one because we don't live here.
I just don't see how someone's sexuality. I don't understand how legislation and someone's sexuality go hand in hand. That's what I'm not. That's the correlation I'm not seeing. I'm not seeing how you can criminalize the way someone chooses to conduct themselves sexually with another consenting. How two adults
of course
choose to conduct themselves.
I understand, but I think that
especially if it's something that's innate, ultimately.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I haven't.
You don't believe
no. I'm thinking about it. Thinking about it because, I mean, apart from living in Nigeria for 5 years as a teenager, I haven't lived in a country that is heavily restricted in terms of your religion and your cultural beliefs. So it's very hard to put myself in that position, if that makes sense. If you've lived in, and I know we were talking about what type of state, if it's an Islamic state, Christian state. I think if you've lived in an Islamic state, let's say you've lived in Saudi Arabia, I think someone in Saudi Arabia would have more of an opinion because they've lived in that condition where they can explain to you that, look, I was brought up this way, and this is what it means for our society. Like, our men are more respectful to our women, or there could be these things that I'm not exposed to here because we live in a much more liberal or much more democratic space. So it's very hard for me to form I can't be on my high chair and come and say, how dare you do this? It could be that system, that belief works for that society. But I do think 15 years is crazy. What are they going to learn in 15 years?
Well, it's to punish, though, ultimately.
I know, but
prison is not for rehabilitation; it's for punishment.
Yeah. So that's a challenging one.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was an interesting topic because you hear about these things all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm very sure it doesn't just happen in Zambia and Africa. I'm sure it happens in other African countries. I'm sure it happens in the Middle East. I've heard about things happening in the Caribbean. But I think where it's interesting is when it's a law. That's where it
it's not a case where it's just frowned upon.
There's a big difference where it's like you've got a whole legislation, a whole sentencing guideline for this.
I just feel like, and it's for me anyway, it's always in countries where that really should be the least of their worries.
Yeah.
They really should be focusing on, I don't know, basic amenities for their, population. You know what I mean?
This is what I would
running water,
if you said to me,
electricity,
if you said
infrastructure, little things like that. That's what we need to be worrying about. Forget who's fucking who.
Let me say this to you. If you said to me that in Zambia, you get fined £500 for openly showing you're gay, then I'd be like, okay, fine. That's your policy. You're very strict on that. It could even be for heterosexual relationships. So you're
saying because of the level
15 years is crazy. If you said, you know what, we in this country do not agree with this, so if that's what you want to do, you have to do it behind closed doors.
But then that's a form of social control. They're trying to control.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say,
by sentencing these two young men to 15 years, this is a deterrent to anybody else.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is that sentence is very heavy.
It's very heavy for a reason.
I'd respect more.
It's an agent of social control.
But I'd be more agreeable if they said, you know what, in our country, do what you want to do with whoever you want to do it with, but not openly. If you want to do it, you can do it indoors, whatever. If you want to go to a gay bar, a gay club, you can go. Like, that kind of thing. But to see, let's say you saw two men holding hands, walking, and then you just arrested because they're holding hands. Yeah. It's just like a bit like, mate, they could just be, I don't know, really good friends. Not to say that I do that, but I don't know. It's just one of those topics that you just look at and you're like, shit, the world is still, in certain areas.
Certain, I think because we live in a Western world, we assume the rest of the world thinks like us, lives like us.
On this whole, making it mandatory for kids in school to learn about LGBTQ plus, So on one spectrum, they're trying to put that in the school and make it mandatory, and then on the other side, it's like 15 years in jail. Yeah. So it's a lot to process. It's like the world is moving at 100 miles per hour, and we're just.
But some people are getting left behind.
Yeah. I think I'm in between.
You're in between. My thing is, you can't deny people's existence.
Yeah.
That's what it boils down to. You don't have to accept it. You don't even have to like it, but you cannot deny people's existence.
Cool. So should we just cap that?
I think we should just cap that because I feel
I think some people listening will understand what we're trying to say, and I hope they can conclude or make their own opinions. Yeah. Or they might think, I don't know what we learned from this. But to be fair, I think
it was interesting that you brought it up.
Yeah, I think it just shows that I don't want to. I'm going to paraphrase what somebody said. Okay. I think the things that are happening in society, whether it's the whole, there's so many words now you can't keep up with, like gender fluidity and all these things. Is everybody is learning and trying to figure this out and understand it in general society at their own pace. Yeah. And I think we need to respect that.
It's like, but
let's not be too extreme on either side.
Yeah.
Let's not force everyone to be pro this, pro that, but at the same time, let's not live in the old days of anti this, anti that. Because what you do behind your closed doors or what you do wherever you do it doesn't make me shit. Do you know what I mean? I'm just saying how it is. So that's what I can conclude from that.
It's just so funny you brought up the whole gender fluidity thing because there was an actor, I don't know if you know him, Billy D. What's his name?
Billy D. Williams.
Williams. Oh my god, that was hilarious.
That made me laugh.
For those who don't know, basically this poor guy, he's in his 80s. They interviewed him, I think, for a magazine or something.
Yeah.
And I think what he was trying to say was that he was in touch with his feminine and masculine side of his personality. Yeah. And for whatever reason, this publication decided to run with the story that Billy D. Williams was gender fluid, and he was like, "Hold on a minute, I didn't say that."
It's like, what the hell is that?
Poor guy was like, "Listen, I'm 80 years old. I don't know what you guys are talking about. All I know is I'm in touch with my feminine and masculine."
He literally said, "What the hell is gender fluid?" And it's like, guys, you got to relax. Let
everyone. I feel like there's almost an agenda that they're trying to push. and it's becoming like this whole thing. Like this guy said one thing, and you lot just ran with it
and came with a whole new narrative, and made up his own answers.
To the point where the guy had to come back and be like, "Hold on a minute, that's not what I said. That is not what I meant. I don't even know what that means." So it's like almost like, are they trying to push a certain agenda? Like,
I know this is going to sound like a weird comparison, but this reminds me of when I used to go to, like, I was brought up Catholic, right? Okay. I've been to various churches. Like, I remember this born again church I used to go to, and all the people who were born again would judge you, be like, "Have you been born again? Have you received Christ?" And I was looking no, but it was so judgmental. Like, you need to get with us. You can't listen to hip hop. It's not holy. I was just looking at like, do you know that I went to church every Sunday? Mm-hmm. Do you know that I went to a Christian Catholic missionary school where you went to church every morning? So don't come and talk to me about, am I saved and am I just... But they'll just look down on you.
Of course.
These same people, I'm telling you, I swear on everything, saw them all at one house party. Mm-hmm. When the Remy's in the system, ain't no telling her fucking about this. I was like, huh? Oh, so you're reciting Jehovah, not Jehovah.
When I was in uni, they had this Christian group. Yeah. I can't remember what they were, something for Christ, or down for Christ. Or yeah. And they were just like that. Like, I hate that. So judgmental, so, you do this, you do that. But did I not see one of you in Iron Upper?
You know what I mean? So I know it's a weird comparison, but that's the way I see it, where it's like, if you don't know what the latest acronym is, then you're phobic, this phobic, that phobic. I was like, mate, I'm not phobic. Maybe I'm just scared that everything's moving too fast. I'm definitely not scared of you. I'm not scared of anything but God. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's that. But I don't know why this just popped into my head. Did you see what Lizzo wore to the Lakers game?
Listen, people need to leave Lizzo alone. Okay, my only problem with what she wore was it's a hygiene problem.
That's what everyone said.
No, it really is a hygiene. Like, you've got your bare bottom on and that's where they're plastic seats.
Yeah, they're plastic
and that's a plastic, like,
hard plastic seats.
Like, that's not hygienic. Like, you don't know who sat there before you, or do you know what I mean? Like, it was just. I like Lizzo, but sometimes I feel like don't just do things for doing things' sake. What are we looking at?
We're looking at image.
Listen. And this is, and I think a lot of people were saying, "Oh, people are being fat."
Body shaming.
Fat. No, not even body shaming. Fat phobic. Basically, if they were comparing her to like a Rihanna or a Beyonce, let me finish. If a Rihanna or a Beyonce wore that, I said Rihanna or Beyonce would never.
Exactly.
That's just what it boils down to. It was just not appropriate for where she was. It's a family event. You're at a basketball game. There are kids there.
My take on this is deeper. I don't care what she said.
Oh, wow.
You know what's crazy? I know Lizzo more for her antics than her music, and apparently she's like a multi-platinum artist. And she was like, she had like the longest number one, whatever. But I just know her for her antic. I don't really want to go into like body positivity and all of that stuff, because that's a whole.
But I think that's what she's all about.
She's supposedly all about that. But this is what I'll say. Because I said it's deeper. That's why I don't really want. That's a whole nother topic.
Okay,
but
all right.
The thing for me is, like you said, Rihanna and Beyonce wouldn't do that there. If she did that on her stage, she's performing, even all the other videos and stuff she's posted, I think it's been in her home, in a studio. I don't care. Do what you want to do. It's hilarious. It's a bit like cringe, but do what you want to do.
Why is it cringe?
No, it's cringe, man.
Why is it cringe? If Rihanna posted her bare butt, you wouldn't mind.
She works out.
Oh, wow.
Go work out.
Wow.
No. That's why I said it's another topic.
That's being fat phobic.
That's not fat phobic.
What is it then?
That's me looking at someone telling people that it's fine to be obese.
But who told you she was obese?
She's obese.
You've been to a doctor over there to say
she's obese.
She's obese.
Do you know when I go to do these you know when they do the BMI, they say I'm obese?
Oh really?
Haven't you seen those stupid scales? The way they work it out, it's like your height versus your. It's like the nurse said, clearly you're not obese. So if they say I'm obese, then what is she?
Okay. But why do you care though?
I heard they said she's Rikishi or something. I don't know who that is. Some wrestler. Engineer's laughing. I heard she got comment to Rikishi, mate. There's a much deeper take from Azealia Banks, and I'm not going to read into it, but I'm going to paraphrase it. What? And the deeper take for me is that she's doing a lot of tap dancing.
Azealia Banks said that about
her. And I'm sorry.
You agree?
You know, in her madness, sometimes she states some facts, you know.
Let me tell you something about Azealia Banks.
Sometimes she states some facts.
99.9% of the time, this girl chats real shit.
Yeah, in the midst of the craziness.
In the midst of the craziness, it's just her delivery is just awful. Like, what did Azealia say?
It's way too long. Look at that. It's like 6 posts. I'm not going to.
So basically, the gist of it is
that she's tap dancing for the white people. Like, she's an industry plant. Oh. So it's embarrassing. Like, it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah, because sometimes she just does things for just doing its sake.
Kind of type. Yeah. And I've heard a few other things. I'm just like, what are you doing? Like, you don't need to do all of that. You have You've had the number one record in the US. I'm not sure, but I think she either beat Bodak Yellow or she came close.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, she's had a massive year. Okay. No pun intended. See what I did there?
Please let this girl live.
She's had a big year.
You're a fool.
She's done it large.
Stop it. Let her live. Come on. Let her live.
No. Listen, let me just go back and say there's nothing wrong with being a big girl or a big guy, whatever. But when you start doing clown shit, is clown shit. Okay. And let's go back to Rihanna, because that's bullshit. When Rihanna was doing Madness, I was also out there like, what's she doing? Like,
yeah, you did.
You remember when she was people were piggybacking her and she was like rolling up a spliff on top of her bouncer's head, and I was like, what are you doing? Like, you look like, so it's nothing. Yes, let's call it what it is. It does look worse if you're that big and you do that. It does look like more clown shit. That's why clowns are fat.
Are they though?
Yeah, clowns in the circus. A skinny clown is boring. A skinny clown looks creepy. Come on. It's true. A skinny, like, you know, what's that? Is it Ronald McDonald? He's creepy as fuck. Can you imagine they brought that around kids? Do you know what I mean? Anyway,
it sold 1 billion hamburgers.
Let's leave good old Lizzo. Good old Lizzo. Quick one. Rhyme with Fizzo. Lil Fizz. Oh, I heard or saw a few things about the chick. What's her name? Omarion's baby mum.
April
is doing bits with another guy. But anyway, saw that coming. I could have told you.
That wasn't true.
It's not really. It's not true. It's a music video.
It's a music video.
All right, that's what they all say, innit? Shit, a little video.
Listen,
you know, in between takes, you know they've got to go to the caravan and relax, innit? And you know it's a bit cold, innit? So you got to warm up.
Listen, you have to give her time to cheat. Don't worry, it's still early days.
She'll be alright. And Omarion in spectacular fashion dropped him for the Millennium Tour on his birthday. I loved it.
This is the level of petty I aspire to be one day.
That's
like, anyone pisses me off. This is the level of petty I'm going to trust.
Yeah, it was. It was amazing. I guess we can get into our final topic.
A more somber topic.
Yeah. I'm going to, again, what we're going to try and do with these serious topics is we'll try to state the facts.
Yes, as much as we can. Yeah.
Especially with sensitive topics. Mm-hmm. And this one, unfortunately, is about the death of a popular US rapper. Mm-hmm. Not our generation.
No.
Young rapper.
Definitely much younger generation.
Yeah, Juice WRLD. To be honest, I've never listened to any of Juice WRLD's music.
Nor have I, to be fair.
I knew
who he was, though.
Yeah, I knew his song, which sampled Sting, Shape of My Heart. I actually really like that. I like that song, standalone, the original, Sting. And I like show my age here. I like the remake with Craig David and Sting, Rise and Fall.
Okay,
yeah. So that's what I knew him for. Okay. But I also knew him because I really, followed the music business. I remember, I think he was being sued for the use of the sample when he used the sample for the song. I think at the time he didn't realize how big the song was going to be. Okay. So he's one of those self-produced, he's talented. I mean, this guy. He came over to London and rapped on Tim Westwood for an hour, freestyling. Oh, wow. He was that talented. And the stuff he was saying makes sense. It isn't just a whole bunch of gibberish. Yeah. It's not your quote unquote, SoundCloud rapper. Even though that's what he came up on. Yeah. He was a really talented guy. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to read a few bits from this article, which I grabbed off. I actually grabbed this off, if I'm correct, BBC. But to be honest, you know what's really interesting? You find that most of these guys use the same source anyway. But I tend to, depending on what type of article, I tried to go to the reliable sources to get it verbatim.
Yeah.
Actually, correction, I got this from The Guardian. I remember now. So anyway, here it goes. Juice WRLD, the US rapper who died aged 21 on Sunday, just a few days ago, was administered an opioid antidote shortly before his death as Chicago police prepared to search his private plane for drugs and guns. Obviously, speaking in past tense now. Yes. At the time when it initially came out, we didn't know about what was on the plane. All we knew is that he had overdosed. And because he had previously touched on his addiction to opioids, the popular drugs we hear about in music, especially of the last decade, the Molly, the Xanax, and all those kind of things. I'm not going to read every single part of this article because I've read different reports. I've been really interested. I'm one of the guys, by the way, who, when somebody dies, especially in such tragic circumstances, I like to give it a few days for it to unfold. Because unfortunately, the way the media works, quick one, Nightcrawler, highly recommend that movie. But that makes you understand how bad the media can be. They're so desperate to get the exclusive. Absolutely. They're parasites. They will just pick and pull and they'll put everything together and sensationalize. And unfortunately for my favorite genre of music, which is hip hop rap, they love a story that depicts that art form in a negative light. So they'll love to sensationalize, So anyway, out the gate, there were suspicions that he had a seizure. So the first thing most people thought was
it was a medical.
They thought it was drug induced. Okay,
I didn't think that.
The popular opinion was
literally just thought maybe he had a pre-existing condition.
Well, this is you being innocent, and not being privy to what he's been about. But if you'd known, Future had almost like an open letter to him prior to his death, saying, "I felt so bad knowing that my music influenced you growing up." Him and Future actually had a joint album. It was either early this year or late last year. Because he looked up to Future, and Future, everyone knows, was you could say he was the. What would you say? He was a popular guy. He is a guy that had success of it. Arguably his best album today, or maybe on his most commercial albums, is Dirty Sprite. Dirty Sprite 2. Anyone who knows what Dirty Sprite means, it's Sprite that's been tainted with cough syrup and I don't even know what they put promethazine. Look, for me, if you cannot, when I read some of the names of these drugs, not trying to be funny, if you can't pronounce this shit, why are you putting in your body? I'm sorry. Do you know what I mean? Like, this one, that one, Mac Miller, all these guys are dying from fentanyl, which I heard is highly addictive and it's worse than heroin, and they're lacing it in all their drugs.
But these are prescription drugs. You can literally go to a doctor and get this.
Prescription, but what is happening with what these guys are buying from outside sources, whether it's drug dealers or guys who've got hookups in clinics, some of them are mixed, some of them are artificial, and this is where it gets tricky. But regardless of if it's prescription or not, these are dangerous. Once you even like paracetamol, if you take 20 paracetamols right now, something could happen to you. I don't know what, but something can happen. Definitely. So obviously these guys are abusing these drugs. So anyway, the reports to date at the moment, it could have changed from now, is he panicked because they were on a private jet. They had about 70 pounds of weed. I don't know why they had 70 pounds of weed when weed is pretty much legal in a lot of states in the US. So
but I think not at that quantity. That's the quantity.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
They were trying to distribute.
But why? He's a millionaire. Follow me on this. All right. So even his friends were using his plane to conduct their business. They're not really his friends. Yeah. Okay. Someone should have taken the charge for him. Okay, because he's the money man. This guy's a millionaire. He's a platinum artist. Okay. In this day and era, as a rapper, to be a platinum artist is very hard. He sells music. He sells concerts. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, the report is that he swallowed a whole bunch of Percocets, ingested quite a few. His girlfriend told the police. Obviously, that's where the police tried to save him. He regained consciousness on his way to the hospital.
Just to get a full context of the story, he swallowed them because he thought the plane was going to get searched.
Yeah, he knew the plane was going to get searched because they had guns on there.
Yeah.
To my understanding, the recent reports are those guns belong to his security. Okay.
So were they legal?
Well, this is the thing. The details in there are like they had metal piercing bullets. I was like,
oh, God,
shit, where are you going? Armageddon? What's happening? But anyway, firstly, rest in peace to the young chap.
Yeah,
he literally turned
definitely.
21, like
It's a baby.
less than 7 days
Yeah.
before his death. So rest in peace to him. You know, we all have done stupid things in a moment of panic.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, I don't know, being scared or what have you. And I don't really want to dwell on the exact facts of this case because it's still fresh.
It's still fresh, and
but
he's still.
Yeah, my thing I would say, I don't want to go too deep into. I did have a whole bunch of things I wanted to say, but let me keep it like this. Two things. I encourage anyone, if you're dealing with, you know, pain, trauma, some form of you can never really diagnose if you have a mental health issue, but I like to think at a certain point you know if you're dealing with things.
Mentally,
please try to speak to someone,
definitely.
A friend, family member, maybe your pastor, your
even
your
GP.
You know what I mean? Your GP.
Go to your GP.
You know, try and speak to someone.
Something.
You know, if you're dealing with pain. If you're doing drugs, which I do not encourage, you know, do your research. You know, I do not encourage. I'm not going to judge, but if you need a pill, whatever it is you take, I think do your research, and you're better off going to get. If you need some form of painkiller, I know some people I know literally depend on sleeping pills because they're so stressed. They're dealing with trauma, a bad divorce, lost a child at a young age. You be hearing some fucked up stories, and you take your life for granted, and you don't realize people are really dealing with pain.
Yeah.
But my advice to you is seek the best help you can, and you'll be surprised who will listen to you. Because I think sometimes people are too embarrassed to open up, whether it's to a friend or family. They think they'll be judged, they'll be perceived as weak, this, that, the other. But speak to someone. So that's one side.
Yeah.
The other side, it's a bit controversial. I have two ways at looking, because the recent thing I've seen a lot of is blaming, I don't want to say just Future, but almost blaming the genre. Okay,
blaming that subculture.
For that subculture, the emo rap, emotional rap for the opioids. Look, drugs, sex, and music have been synonymous before we were born.
Of course,
60 years, 80 years ago, people were doing heroin, smoking crack. Do you know what I mean? Ecstasy. What was the one that was famous in the Wolf of Wall Street?
Cocaine?
No, not cocaine. Of course, cocaine. There was one that I'd never heard of. I can't remember. Quaaludes.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Bill Cosby? No, I'm joking.
There's been all types of pills and drugs.
Yeah.
So this is not just relegated to hip hop. It's
not
popular. And because we have the imagery, you know, we got the cups, you know, we got the cool double cups and all that kind of stuff, and we got the videos. You know, it's been popularized in there. But I can tell you, I'm sure it's in rock and roll. I'm sure it's in I don't know, metal, you know, grunge. Even when I was in college, to be fair, pill popping was not cool. But you knew the guys who pill popped, and they were not hip hop heads. But I don't like this whole trying to blame it on hip hop. I even saw on some of these articles, you know, the rapper's choice of drugs.
But you know what? There are other rappers who are blaming rappers, though.
I know.
Let me just read you something.
Yeah,
you know who Joyner Lucas is?
I know Joyner Lucas is. Yeah.
So Joyner Lucas tweeted verbatim. Juice WRLD was 21. He was a product of our generation of rappers who glorified drugs and made it cool. I'm blaming y'all niggas for this shit. All that lean and pills niggas glorify and talk about. You're teaching the kids to do it. Shaking my head. Are you happy now?
Yeah, I saw that. I have something.
What do you have to say about that?
I have something to say about that. Firstly, the timing was off. He literally tweeted that. I don't even think.
It sounds very emotive.
Yeah, like it's emotive, but I felt that came. It was like less than 24 hours after.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I just think that when these things happen, like, I think we get so far removed. Like, death happens all the time, that we get so far removed from the reality that someone's family is still dealing with that. Someone's friends, you know, even with. Rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. But even with the Nipsey Hussle thing, so many conspiracy theorists came out. Oh, the government shot him because they didn't want him to do the Dr. Sebi documentary. There was all sorts, you know what I mean? And then you have some people saying, well, he praised gang culture. And it's like, guys, he's still a human being. Let this man, and for the most part, you knew this guy was trying to do better for his life and for individuals. Let that, you know, give it a few days. If that's how you feel, cool. But why must we all run to Twitter and Instagram? You know, I don't want to even like go off on one, but do you know there was literally a day I saw a bunch of people I follow with video posts, of funerals and. Mate, I get it. You went to a funeral to bury a family friend or uncle. I don't need to see it on Instagram. Yeah, people post on their stories and.
Oh no.
I don't get that. No. Obviously, maybe I don't understand because some people say no, it's how they share, it's how they express themselves. I can understand a beautiful picture at a memorial service or something like that, but I'm seeing like literally the coffin being carried. Why am I watching that? Why? It's not my business. Yeah. I pay respect, but I don't need to be. The world we live in where like everyone feels they need to rush.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But going back to the thing with the music, Joyner Lucas, he is right. He is right.
Okay.
But two things can be right. I think it's
that wasn't the right moment.
It was not the right moment, but I also think it's wrong for them to just blame this on hip hop or blame this on Future or the other rappers that have talked about lean and things like that.
But I'm sure if Juice WRLD was alive today and you asked him as to where the influence came from, he would say hip hop.
He always said that. He did always say that.
Exactly.
He always said that, but I think it's a very.
I don't know if it's solely where the blame lies, but you have to. The hip hop.
It is, but I think it's for me personally. I think it's a lousy way of looking at it and just subjecting it to hip hop. I think.
Okay, so what other factors would you say?
Real life. People have been doing drugs forever. That's why I was giving you the examples of like different music. Yeah. People. Video games. People play video games and do drugs. People, you know what I mean? People are addicted to like a Call of Duty, do a bunch of drugs and go shoot up a school. I just don't like this, like waiting for something tragic to happen in hip hop and then bastardizing the whole genre. The genre, a lot of hip hop music has shaped who I am and helped me in my life growing up. So I find it's like, yeah, but you're talking about a small section of hip hop that's with a certain demographic, but don't just blame the whole thing on hip hop. I understand what you're saying.
But there is still some blame, is what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying there's none, but I'm saying that the way it's been painted, there's a lot of verbiage which is like, it's to do with Future because he did this and did that. How about this? There was a line that Jay-Z said, do you just listen to music? Do you listen to music or do you just skim through it? Everyone was turning up to Future. But if you actually listen to the lyrics, I always telling you guys he's in pain. He was really dealing with pain. He wasn't just, I'm drinking and I'm just telling you I'm popping pills. He was really dealing with pain. Like, even Joe Budden said it years ago on his podcast. He's like, you guys are turning up to Future. This guy is dealing with pain. He's talking about pain. If you actually go and listen, that's why the guy's got melodies and he can actually write. A lot of people don't realize that Future's pen is sick. Like, he can actually really write. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to touch on the whole Ciara situation. I don't know Future the person, but this guy has several kids and several baby mums. Do you not think he sits down and thinks sometimes how much he effed up on certain things and things that's happened in his life? So what I'm trying to say is, like, have you watched the Ray Charles biography, the movie? Have you watched it?
With Jamie Foxx?
Yeah. I'm not sure how much you can recall, but people forget Ray Charles was dealing with so much pain and he was on heroin.
Yeah, he was.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know Ray Charles' lyrics like a Future, but I'm sure if you go deep down into his albums, he probably talked about heroin. And back then, because it was a taboo, he probably talked about it in different ways. Like, I've been dancing to a song before and someone said, do you know what they're talking about is cocaine? And you're like an 80s bop. And you're like, huh? They're talking about cocaine. Is that what they're talking about?
A lot of all that a lot of Motown music. They talked a lot about drugs.
Like Nina Simone, Aretha Franklin, all these people dealt with pain in their own ways. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it's just a mature way. I don't know. I'm an overthinker. Maybe that's my strength and my weakness at the same time. I overthink. I look into these things in a much deeper light. And I recently rewatched an interview that Juice WRLD did on Breakfast Club this year, just before that, and he was talking about like trying to come off the drugs and dealing with pain and that's why he expresses himself in his music. He had an eerie line, by the way, saying he's not sure if he'll live up to 27.
You see, sometimes I feel like
I hate those things. I hate when I hear those things.
And then they pass, and you just think, how?
Yeah, I hate those things.
Because I feel like Mac Miller had the same.
Mac Miller, even Nip, even King Nip, Nipsey Hussle had a line. He had a line. I'm just paraphrasing, but he did say something like, "He'll probably die on these streets, but his name will live on," and that's literally what happened. So it's crazy. Powerful. The tongue is powerful, man. Like even sometimes when I say morbid things to my missus, and she'd be like, "Don't say that," and you'd be laughing. I'd be like, "You know what? She's right," because you don't want those things to manifest, and you don't want that energy to be around you. If you see what I mean. Of course. So sorry, I feel like I did a lot of talking on that. Do you have anything more to say about the topic apart from, I mean, obviously, rest in peace to a young man. Condolences to his, his family and his friends, and obviously his supporters. Because, like I said, that's not my generation. But I personally, I'm still like, every time when I listen to like Nipsey Hussle, and there's a few other rappers or other people, but let's keep on topic. A few Nipsey Hussle in particular that really affected me, and I'm much older, so I'm thinking, it's not like when when you're a kid, like. That's why I'm not afraid to say, as a kid, these rappers are like superheroes to you. Just the same way, like, when the little girls cry when their boy band breaks up. Like, so I can imagine, I've seen a lot of things, like a lot of these 14, 15-year-olds, like they really looked up to him the same way they looked up to the guy who got killed last year, I don't know how to say, Extension. Do you know what I mean? So, it's hard to deal with, and, it's just one of those things where you just reflect on life, and you think, if we can help someone who's dealing with some crap, then.
But why? My thing is,
it might just be a few words. It might be a hug.
Why do these young men feel that all? I'm just pertaining it to rappers, young rappers, because of who we're talking about.
Yeah.
But why do they feel they need to turn to the drugs and the lean and the pill popping? To get through whatever. Let's be honest, everyone goes through shit in life.
Everyone goes through shit.
Obviously more than others.
Yeah.
But everyone's different. Everyone deals with things very differently. But it's just what drives them. That, like, my thing is, like, me personally, I value my life so much.
I do too, but I think this is what I think, and this is just top of my head. I think if you come from an environment where you've grown up seeing people self-medicate through pain, whether it's maybe your dad thing was alcohol, or your mum's thing was weed, or your mum came from crack or coke or whatever.
They're coming from that generation.
They're coming from that generation, and you go from 0 to 100. So you go from being able to buy a little dime bag of weed to now being able to chase a bigger high. Because I had this conversation where I was like, why do people do coke? Why do people say, look, some people just keep chasing that high. Yeah. And it's also
but it's a high they'll never get.
Yeah, and it's also what your environment is around. But then, of course, in addition, yes, the popularity. If you're in those spaces, like, I talk to some people that work in the city, and they casually talk about, oh yeah, me and my mate were out on Friday, and yeah, like so and so was doing coke with her friends, and I'm just like, huh? But it's like that's normal, So it's the environment you come up under, and when you get into certain spaces where certain things are a norm. So going back to the whole heroin thing, I think heroin was done in the dark, but cocaine, as from what I've heard and what I've seen in documentaries, movies and whatever, was done openly in the 80s. Like, it was just there on a tray, like, backstage, just there, like, yeah, here's some coke, do some coke. And I think that's what's happened with pills, because I was listening as well, like, when these guys go to studio sessions, it's a thing. Like, you'll get offered lean. Lean was very popular, and then people get impatient with lean and they want to do pills. Or I'm no drug expert. I'm just going by the things I've seen, heard, and know. Do you know what I mean? But again, so rest in peace to the young man. And again, rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. It's the end of the year. We lost a few people. But there have been a lot of positive moments this year. Have you got any positive moments you can recall?
Personally, or just
personally?
God, you put me on the spot now. Not any particular moment.
Yeah.
I've had a good year.
Yeah.
I've had a Yeah, I've had a good year. I wouldn't say it was excellent. I wouldn't say it was a shit year, but I've had a
Yeah, I think I've had a good year too. Yeah, I mean, new job. Obviously, we started this podcast, so that's good, and looking forward to bringing it into 2020. I think everyone's going to come at cheesy lines 2020.
Oh,
in my head, I've got that 2020 vision, but I know everyone's going to rinse it. 2020 vision. You know what I mean? Obviously, this is only. Okay, I'm going to say how it is. Even though we've had a pilot episode, this really is our third episode. So for people who've really tuned into the pilot, this is our third episode. But the reason we called the first one a pilot, because it really was us just experimenting. And I'm really happy with the amount of listens we've had and the feedback we've had, considering that was our pilot. And I'd like to think over time, we will become like a bit more structured, give you as much content as we can, keep it entertaining, but also... touch on topics that people are afraid to talk about. Yeah. Open ourselves up a bit more. Hopefully this time next year we'll do a proper wrap up of the year. About topics and things we've discussed and lists. But so I'm just gonna segue into this. God. I love lists. I love debating. God.
Yes, Frank loves a list.
So give me. I asked you for your top 5 albums. If you can't give me top 5 albums, your top 5. Singles this year.
Okay.
And I want your top 5 recommended movies.
Okay.
And movies and or TV shows. I can't really think of 5 movies top of my head, but I can think of shows. I couldn't think of
5 movies. I can think of shows.
So you go first.
You're gonna try and compare.
No, I'm gonna see if I'm watching any of them. Oh, interesting.
You probably won't.
Let's see.
Okay. So my top 5. I start with TV shows.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows I love a show called 90 Day Fiancé.
Do you know what? I've heard so much about it. I haven't watched it, but I heard it's really entertaining.
Frank,
I've got to watch it.
This is probably the best TV,
I've heard so much about it.
Show I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's stupidly entertaining.
Yeah.
So the premise of the show is a bunch of Americans have found love overseas. Supposedly. Have found love overseas, and they have to bring this particular person over to the United States and marry them within 90 days.
Yeah.
Or that person has to go back or get deployed. Just the shenanigans on it. It's just.
I think I got to watch this.
There's these 2 characters called. Anyone who watches this show knows who I'm talking about. Yeah. They're called Angela and Michael.
Yeah.
Michael is from Lagos, Nigeria.
Oh my goodness! It's already fine.
And he is 31 years old.
Supposedly, is he 31?
No, I mean. He said he looks 31.
Okay. Cool.
But no, he looks 31. So he's in his early 30s.
Yeah.
His fiancée Angela, I believe, is 53.
Okay.
And they want to...
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
22 years. All right.
Yeah. So they want to get married. They want to have kids.
Yeah.
How that's going to happen. Angela has children, obviously, from a previous relationship. Yeah. And because
they want to have kids.
They want to have kids.
Okay, keep going.
And because she's not able to have children.
Yeah.
She's past, child.
Yeah, she's 53.
And Michael's mother has said, Michael needs to have kids. He's Nigerian. Yeah. You know how your people are.
Yeah. My people.
Yeah.
Our people.
Not having children is out of the question.
Yeah.
So Angela has asked her daughter to be a surrogate for her. So you need to watch the show. It's an absolute yeah. Yeah.
Whoa. No, I'm gonna look for that. I'm gonna that's fine. I'm gonna watch it over Christmas.
You should get mine on it. I think you would love it.
Is it a lot of episodes?
It's quite a few. But it's a thing where it's one of those ones you can just jump into it and you'll know.
Nah, I'm gonna watch it. That sounds hilarious. Is it a VH1 kind of show?
No, it's on Lifetime.
Okay. Do you know what I'm really interested in? See, the nerd in me is all I'm thinking is how have the US immigration allowed that show?
It's called a K1. Oh, allowed the show to go on.
Yeah, to go on in the sense like they know that there's a chance that it doesn't work. Like, how they just say, because it's like, are they promoting US immigration services? Or,
no, there's this thing called a K1 visa. It's a spousal visa.
Yeah.
So if you have intentions of marrying someone.
No, I know all about that. I know about that, but I'm just thinking, how is it allowed to be for entertainment purposes?
Oh, I see what you mean. I don't know.
Because it's a very rigorous, strict process. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? But yeah, go on. And the rest? I'm definitely watching that. You got me already,
that. Another show I've been to is called Atypical. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
The premise of it's in its second season.
Yeah.
The premise of the show is there's this boy who is on the spectrum.
Yeah.
On the autism spectrum. So just it's like a comedy drama.
I might have seen it pop up. I haven't.
Yeah, you've probably seen it. It's really. I would definitely recommend it.
Okay. Cool. Is it British or American?
No, it's American.
Atypical. Sorry. Atypical.
Yeah.
Okay.
Another one I'm watching is The Godfather of Harlem.
I love it.
Are you watching that?
Yeah, of course. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, come on.
I kind of stumbled across it.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on. Like,
what's going on?
So good. It's with Forrest
Whitaker. Yeah.
And it's the story of Bumpy Johnson, who was like a...
He was like a mob boss.
Yeah. He was who basically...
Frank Lucas worked for. From American Gangster.
Yeah. So just the story of his life, basically.
Yeah,
very
that's
interesting.
really good.
Top Boy.
That
goes without saying. That was...
Yeah.
And
that might be number one. Really? I'm thinking about it.
I've seen that.
That bit when he's carrying his cousin and and then the view goes away. I was, when just like, shit.
No, do you know what part?
I was so proud of it.
Do you know what part that really got me? When Jason died in the fire. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. No. Kano's acting.
Listen. Oscar worthy. He needs to get something.
Mate, he needs to get something.
He needs to get something.
He needs to get something.
Amazing. I've seen that season like 4
I'm going to watch it again over Christmas.
Yeah.
You know when you love something so much and you want to let it breathe so you can go watch it again. I'm going to watch it again. The acting in it was superb. That's a good one. That's a really good one.
Lastly, Euphoria.
Do you know Euphoria? I started it.
Okay.
But I just felt too old watching it.
Why?
What is it, 15, 16-years doing drugs and having sex? And then the old man is sleeping with a little boy who's dressed like a woman. Mate. Listen, it was going to... I might finish it because apparently it's really good. I like Zendaya. She's a really good actress.
She's a very good actress.
I might go back and watch it. It's easy to watch.
It's an easy watch.
Yeah, but you're just looking at it and then you're judging all the kids and you're thinking, shit.
You know what? They're
scary.
depicting what these kids are up to.
Yeah. It's scary. It's scary. I got up to the bit. I liked the bit when the kid that cross dresses. Let me say that because I think that's what it was.
Trans.
Oh, trans. I like when she stood up for herself in the house party.
Okay, yeah.
That's how far I got up to. I'm around there. So that's probably maybe second or third episode.
I think that's the fourth episode.
That's the thing with TV show. You have so many options that if someone doesn't grip you can quickly just move on.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't that I did find it well written, good show, making you think, but I've got so many other things that I was checking out. But I'll probably dip back in just to finish it because it got really high reviews.
Definitely, it's definitely worth a watch. So what were your top five?
My top five,
viewing wise.
Top Boy, definitely. Godfather of Harlem.
Cool.
And a third, what would I put as a third? Because some are continuous. I can't put like a Power, and the Power this season wasn't even all that anyway. Game of Thrones was it this year? Game of Thrones biggest letdown this year, season finale. Let's not even get into that. Do you know what? I like a mixture of things. You know what I really like? It's on Amazon. Jack Ryan. It's really good. It's like Born Identity. I really like that. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll put that there. So that's 3. What have I got as my 4th? What I'm currently watching, but unfortunately it's already been cancelled. So there's only one season.
What is it?
Pearson. It's a spin-off Suits.
Oh,
yeah.
I stopped watching Suits years ago.
Yeah. Well, I stopped watching Suits immediately. Megan.
So when
came
Megan
over here. It's just like, it's too real now. Like, she's like right here.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? In our papers every day. So I'll put Pearson there.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what's a 5th because I really like recommending stuff to people.
Okay.
I'm sure I'll come up with something. So I got Top Boy, Godfather Harlem, Pearson, Jack Ryan. What else came out this year? I can't really. I'm sure there was something on Netflix. Yeah, I think 4 would do it. I'm sure there was something on Netflix that I watched in like, you know how Netflix just put out something. Oh, I tell you what I watched on Netflix.
Right.
Forgotten the name of it, but it's the guy that played Borat, Sasha. It's probably his most serious role to date.
Okay.
It was based on an Israeli spy. That was really good.
Was that a movie or a series?
No, it was a series. It was like a mini series. I've forgotten the name of it. Anyone listening will probably know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
He hardly played serious roles, so it was quite good. You know what? Netflix their content has improved a lot, and that's because of I think that's because of the competition as well.
Touch Netflix for now, anyway.
But you know, Disney's launching their thing in the States. Obviously, you've got Amazon Prime. I'm looking more globally. You've got HBO Max. So there's all these streaming services coming.
All these streaming services
Netflix are not ramping.
They need to consolidate and come together because we can't afford all this.
Yeah, exactly. For movies, I'm not going to give 5. I'm just going to give recommended. I love The Irishman. Way too long. Like, mate, that could have been a TV series.
Way too long.
But, you know, you got the greats in there. You got 2 of my top 5 actors of all time, Al Pacino and De Niro, even though they're really old. You know when you watch something and you're just like, yeah, this is why you are who you are. It was just a masterclass in acting. You got one of the greatest directors of all time in Martin Scorsese directing. There's a couple of cameos from guys that I like from other shows. I forgot the name of this English guy. I wish I remember his name. He was in Boardwalk Empire. He was in Yardie film with Idris.
What was that?
He's been in a lot of stuff.
No, but there was one particular that he was in this year. The cop show on BBC One.
Oh, I know it's Line of Duty.
Line of Duty, yeah.
But it's amazing how he can switch his accent.
He's an amazing actor.
So I highly recommend The Irishman. Watch it over the Christmas. Maybe start in the daytime.
Yeah.
Because you'll fall asleep 2 hours in. It doesn't mean it's not a great movie. It's not a movie. Long. It's not the movie you're looking for. Like, it's not your typical mafia, throw someone in the boot, shoot them 20 million times, cut their ears off. It's very methodical. Yeah. It's a lot of conversations. It's just pure
it's very
acting.
It's just
really pure acting. So highly recommend that. Yeah, I can't really think top of my head, but there's a bunch of movies came out this year. That's the one that stood out for me that I was really happy to see.
Okay, let's do let's run through music.
Music, you go.
Okay, so I didn't do albums. I just did singles that just came to mind that I really enjoyed this year.
Yeah,
I think people should listen to. Don't judge me, but see girls act up. That is my jam.
No, it's fine. You know them girls, they rap off beat, but the things they be saying and they're saying it with their chest. I'm just like, you know what? I respect them because they really be going off, and I'm just like, did she really say that? Say it the way she said it. You know what I mean? So
I do like a
so I do respect them for what they're doing.
Burna Boy.
Not necessarily their message. Burna Boy,
Yeah, I mean, that goes without saying.
Amazing
album. Azealia Banks, Anna Wintour.
I don't listen to her. Anna Wintour.
She has a song called Anna Wintour.
Irony.
Check it out. It's what did you say? The irony.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Malibu Mitch. Do you know who that is?
I heard.
She's a rapper.
Yeah, I've heard.
Out of New York.
Okay.
She had a song called "Give Her Some Money."
Was she on Love and Hip Hop?
No, she wasn't.
Oh, okay.
No. So yeah, check those singles out.
My albums of the year, my 5. I don't know.
Oh, God. It's gonna be some hardcore rap that I've probably never heard of.
Dave East,
okay.
Survival, his debut album. It was worth the wait. Incredible album. Really enjoyed it. Enjoyed the concert last week. Jim Jones' album El Capo.
Jim Jones had an album.
Yeah, really good album. Worked with one producer, Heatmakers, who are like the traditional sound for the Diplomats, like Cameron, Joel Santana, all them guys. It was very nostalgic, the samples and the way it sounded. Rick Ross, Port of Miami 2. Blade Brown, London, UK rapper, I don't know if you know him.
Say that again?
Blade Brown.
Blade?
Yeah, Blade Brown. Bags and Boxes 4. Okay. So what have I got? 4 albums at the moment. I could give you 10, but I'm not going to do that.
No,
Burna Boy.
Oh, Burna Boy, of course.
African Giant.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I think that is the epitome of what Afrobeats is and just how he tied everything in.
I agree.
Tell your album, maybe not very popular to some. I really like Jacquees' album, King of R&B. You don't like it?
I mean, do you know what? I heard that one song that he sampled from, what's her name? Ella, no. He didn't do a
What, the remake? Come on, we're over that. He's made so much music since
I know.
Yeah.
I just can't get over that. Like, that was such a tune, and you just had to, okay.
Benny the Butcher, the plugs I met, you wouldn't even know who he is. You wouldn't even know where to start.
But I mean, let the people know so they can check them out.
Forgot what Chris Brown's album was called.
Okay.
But it was a good 40 tracks. But I tell you what, it's a really solid album. For
40 songs?
Listen.
We
were talking about drugs before. I don't know what drug he's taking because he churns up. Like, to be fair, the last album he did, which was like 700 tracks, they all sounded the same. Well, after the first 10, then they all sound the same. But this album was quite good, and the singles he chose are really good. I think that let me not get too morbid with it, but there were, but he still held his own on a lot. Okay. It's very Chris Brown, and you're just here to give you a quick 16 bars. Okay. I'm just trying to think if there's any other music I'd highly recommend. You know, I listen to so much music I could just give you on and on, but those are the ones that top of my head. Okay. There were a lot of like smaller EPs and projects that came out. Like, you know, there was a lot of music. I'll tell you who I do like, but she's not for me because I just feel much older, but she reminds me of Brandy. Is it a reach?
If you're going to compare someone to
London on the Track is her producer.
Summer Walker.
Summer Walker.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
You see, you know what I mean? She's got that vibe.
Because to me,
she's not that level, but she's got that. Yeah, she's got that. She's got that vibe. She's got that vibe. I like her voice. Yes. I really like her voice. Yes. You know, we were talking about anxiety and what is it. People are saying she's faking it. I do believe she's going through it. I do believe she does a lot of extra shit as well. You think? But I've seen a few out of her antics. But I do think she is going through some stuff.
I do think she has social anxiety, definitely.
Hopefully with the right guidance, she will be a star.
You think? Yeah. She's already ready to quit the music industry.
That's why I'm saying she needs a bit of guidance. Maybe she needs to just... You know, we're talking about when these people self-medicate. And let's use Bryson Tiller, for example, right? You couldn't tell me nothing about Bryson a good couple of years ago, but he shot up so fast, it was too much for him, and that's not him. So he's just chilling. He's got his kid. I think he's engaged. He's having another kid, and he's doing little features here and there. His sophomore album wasn't as good as his first album, which was everywhere. Every girl was using it as their Instagram captions and making walkaway videos and all the works. You know what I mean? He was that guy for at least a cool 18 months. So I don't know what will happen with Summer Walker, but she just needs the right guidance and the right people around her. Definitely. So that's the wrap up in terms of music, movies, and TV shows. What are you saying for Power? January 5th. Are you watching it?
I have to.
It's so funny because I saw it come up on my feed and it's like, who shot Ghost? Oh, bruv. You know, it's like, nah, you man really stretched this thing out. But okay, we've been committed for how many years now?
But you're gonna tune in.
No, of course. We've been committed for 6 years, so we have to follow through, innit?
Exactly. You know I mean?
It's only 5 episodes. And they have a spin-off, right?
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see
how they spin it off.
But not necessarily a spoiler alert, but I saw 50 Cent post a picture and it was like Power Book 2 spin-off, and he's sitting on the set of it. Yeah. And it's like, Tariq is there. So I was like, okay, so Tariq is not dying in this season then, is he?
You really want this guy dead, don't you?
Not really. But it was just like, dude, like,
there's no suspense.
You got 5 episodes, there's no suspense. We definitely know Tariq is coming out of this clean. Do you know what I mean?
How annoying.
So, because you can't do because they were saying they're going to do a few prequel shows. No, they were going to do a few spin-offs. So one could be like a prequel, getting to know who was Ghost and Kane and and then one would be further along the line. Okay. You can't do a prequel at Tariq because he's a kid. So he's going to be an infant. Yeah. So it's irrelevant. So that only shows that it's the future. And I can see what they're trying to do with the real actor, Michael Rainey, I think that's his surname. Okay. I think they're trying to build him up. He's actually a good actor, you know. He's been in a lot of shows. Yeah, he's always been a stubborn kid in most shows. So it's a natural talent, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's us. I think we covered the topics we wanted to cover. Like I said, next year our wrap up will probably be a bit more comprehensive than
very much more comprehensive.
Next year's a couple of weeks away, man. Yeah. Any resolutions? Any New Year resolutions you got?
Just stay fabulous, I guess.
I don't really. I just try to improve on the previous year, to be honest. I know it sounds, but that's what I really try to do. Like, health.
Is there any particular goal you're trying to set for yourself that you're trying to achieve, or?
I'm always trying to find ways to make more money. I know it sounds very narrow-minded, but that's the truth. It's tough out here. It's London, man. Everything's expensive. You step out your house, you spend £20 just for stepping out your house.
Sometimes I don't leave my house.
You think about it and just say, let me just put the TV on and microwave what's in the fridge. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, just continue chasing my ambitions, like my dreams and stuff that I'm doing. Like, obviously, we're going to continue building this podcast. Yes. And like I said, I guess 2020 is about that 2020 vision, baby.
Please don't
trust me. I know we're gonna see the most corniest, cheesiest posts on Instagram, man. Yeah,
all
that's
right.
us.
Let's wrap up.
Peace and blessings to everybody.
Just a quick, I guess, Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Have a safe and blessed New Year.
Yes.
And,